Greetings, Rigil Agateiades here, and today we're back on my usual schedule of trying out weird mobile suits. Today's mobile suit may not look so weird, but under the hood this is no normal Gouf, and it definitely doesn't play like one. This is the Gouf that gave up almost everything in order to gain one prestigious status. It is the first mobile suit ever to take flight. This is the Wright brothers of the mobile suit world, the 350 cost general type, Gouf Flight Test Type. Flight is no longer a rare sight in Battle Operations 2, especially amongst newer mobile suits, but go back to the old world of 350 and you suddenly learn to appreciate how powerful it is. Being capable of flight doesn't just mean you can take routes that were previously impossible. It also comes with numerous other strengths, even more if you can use the techniques that no other mobile suits have. But at the same time, this comes with weaknesses that also no other mobile suits have, and in fact, quite a lot of them, making this a very difficult mobile suit to pilot. Well, at least we only die to other mobile suits and not disintegrating on our own. To avoid turning into a respawning clay pigeon for the enemy, we first have to understand what makes this Gouf run. The skill that lets this Gouf take to the air is the skill Flight System Level 1. By consuming thrusters continuously, this skill lets the Gouf maneuver as if it's in space. In fact, you can do everything you do in space, including emergency braking and quick descent. This gives the Gouf Flight Test Type 15 seconds of flight if you don't use extra thrusters at all, and a couple more if you put on thruster custom parts. But this isn't the end of this skill. While this skill is active, the Gouf Flight Test Type gains 5 movement speed, 5 thruster speed, and 10% reduced thruster consumption when using high speed movement. But most importantly, it reduces all incoming staggers by a grade. While this effect comes at the cost of increased stagger accumulation, this effect can still negate a wide range of weapons as long as they don't come with 80% stagger accumulation. This includes every beam rifle at this cost and cannon type weapons like the 180mm on the enemy support type. But other than what's written on paper, there's actually one more strength about this flight system that's quite relevant at this cost. You can fight even with damaged feet! At this cost, going after the enemy's feet is a common practice, but since we fight with our feet off the ground, we still move around without being hindered at all. The only time we feel the impact is when we've landed after overheating, but that's when we hide in safety anyway. In fact, there's even a technique to nullify the impact when landing. And that technique is as simple as landing with an emergency evasion. By evading as you get close to the ground, you're essentially resetting the load on your feet. If you're close enough to the ground, that load turns to 0 and you land without falling flat. Now the only impact broken feet have on us is immobility when we've already landed. That's barely anything to a flying Gouf. Land a good volley of missiles, use the same trick again, and we land beautifully as if nothing happened. Not sure if our enemy could even tell that we were crippled. Other than preventing you from falling face first, landing with an emergency evasion is actually a really good way to land in general on the Gouf Flight Test Type. If you use the evasion from a low enough altitude, you don't just reset the load on your feet. You're avoiding the landing recovery motion as a whole and eliminating any hover inertia. While the time you save here is short, that 1 second can save your life as you only do this when you're the most vulnerable. Eliminating hover inertia is also extremely useful as it gives you a lot more control when landing on small platforms. If you're landing on somewhere like Arctic Base, that can easily be a matter of life and death. Flight system is obviously the biggest strength of this mobile suit. With the right techniques, it allows you to take advantageous positions like no other mobile suits with very little downsides. But what's also part of this mobile suit is his seemingly endless list of problems. First of all, it's weapons. The giant bazooka is a good instant stagger, but the problem is its swap time. Taking 2 seconds to pull out, you can only use this to start combos but never to chain staggers, which is a shame given what the next weapon can do. Next on the list we have the leg rocket cannons. With outstanding specs in damage and stagger accumulation, they are powerful when they land. But only if they land. Thanks to their long travel time, hitting any moving target is a serious challenge, but what's worse is their reload. With a very long 15-second reload by default, they spend most of the game reloading, and all you're left with are finger falcons that do barely any damage. Oh, have I mentioned that the rockets will hit the ground instead if you move sideways? At last, we get to the problems on this mobile suit itself. In order to fly, this Gouf went through a very significant diet and now comes with only 12,000 base health. That's 3,000 less than the original Gouf with the same cost. Together with a low range defense and absolutely miserable melee defense, you do not survive for long, especially when you're down the mid-flight. Of course, the list of problems doesn't end there. This mobile suit has no high-spec ambac, so you never want to use a single tap of thrusters while in the air. You also can't use melees in any practical way as you have fists as your melee weapon, a weak melee priority, and not even high-performance balancers. Even our Dwagu can do a better job. The result of all these weaknesses is a mobile suit that takes a lot of attention to survive. You're looking at your thruster bar, looking at the radar for a place to land, keeping yourself at the right altitude, and looking for any bazookas flying your way, all while aiming properly. However, if you can handle all that, this mobile suit is irreplaceable. It can absolutely bully enemies without the right weapons like the Slife Rail, and what better joy is there than having the best view over a good old Zeonic lineup. That was the Gouf flight test type, probably the most handful I've ever tried amongst all 350 cost mobile suits. Thanks to its endless list of problems, this Gouf takes a lot of specific techniques to handle. You have to walk up first before using flight system to avoid using thrusters while in the air, use emergency evasions to land from just the right altitude, use flight system even when on the ground to melee, swap to Vulcans instead of missiles when hitting someone with maneuver armor, and the list goes on. But the reward when you've succeeded is good. Not in terms of damage because the reload is absolutely miserable, but in terms of having the best view over the battlefield and the best time against any team with a bunch of melee gorillas. No, this mobile suit isn't actually that useful. That's it from me today. Don't get on this mobile suit unless you like the view from above, and the latest.